What is going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Forward Thinking Founders. I am very grateful to have your attention, at least for the next 15 minutes of this episode. Forward Thinking Founders is a podcast where I interview pre-seed and seed stage founders about their products, what they want to build into the world, and why. We dive into how they spend their time, what's their vision, what's their origin stories, all these things, so you can learn all about what's coming tomorrow. Because these companies haven't hit critical scale yet. Most of them haven't hit product market fit. These are just early stage companies, and the big question is, what can this be? And in this podcast, we bring that out. So with that, I really hope you enjoy your time listening to today's episode. And I've already done 200 plus, so if you like this one, listen to some of the other ones, like with Imadi Kund, Austin Allred, Leah Culver. We have great interviews, so check it out, enjoy the repository, and for now, let's get into today's episode. Here we go. All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Forward Thinking Founders. We talk to founders about their companies, their visions for the future, and how the two collide. Today, I'm very excited to be talking to Tela Andrews, who's a co-founder of BearTax. Welcome to the show. How's it going?
Doing great. Excited to be here, Matt. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. I'm looking forward to learning more about what you are working on. For people that haven't heard of your company, what is BearTax?
BearTax is software that helps crypto users to properly figure out their tax obligations for their crypto investments. It's hard because most users use multiple exchanges or multiple wallets, and we provide that layer that's that single source of truth that collects data from all those sources, so that you have one number that you can feed to the IRS, or if you're living somewhere around the world, whoever your tax authority is in your country.
So I'd love to learn a little bit more about kind of how this works. Let's say I'm like a diehard crypto, and I do invest a little bit or trade a little bit, but like, let's just say I'm like super into it, and I realized one day that, oh wait, like I gotta pay attention to taxes here. How would I get involved with BearTax? Like, how do I link up my accounts? Can you kind of like walk me through the process of actually kind of figuring this all out with your platform?
Yeah, sure thing. So we make it pretty straightforward. You have APIs that you can connect to through a number of exchanges. A lot of people actually prefer using flat files. Some of the exchanges out there are gating their API access, requiring you to complete a KYC process that some folks just aren't comfortable with and don't want to do. So we've always got a flat file option, and you would collect those files from the different exchanges and wallets that you work with, upload those to our system, connect your APIs to our account. It's read-only access. We don't actually have the ability through those APIs to touch any of your actual assets. It's just the data. And then we would aggregate that, match up the transactions, the buy and sell transactions, to give you, the accurate cost basis for each of those transactions, and then give you an income statement and other reports that help you file your taxes after that.
And walk me through a little bit about kind of the origin story here. Why did you decide to get started with BearTax?
Yeah, so this is a fun and interesting one. I actually came in and acquired a majority share of the company. I'm not an original founder. My background is actually in building tax software. So I spent 4 years at a company called Avalara, where I led the flagship product, grew that from 40 to 160 million in revenue, helped take it public, expanded into Europe through acquisition, expanded into Brazil and into India. So I love building tax software businesses. Tax software is actually a fairly small industry, right? It's not something you hear a lot of folks into, so it's a little bit of a small world. I first became aware of the crypto tax problem in 2018, saw a friend had actually joined one of our competitors and looked at it and was like, that's a horrible idea. You're building tax software for people that invest in crypto so they don't need to pay taxes. And I quickly realized two things after looking at it. One, that's an early adopter mindset, and that's not the future. So the future is everybody will have crypto, everybody will have exposure to crypto taxes. The other factor that I really understood is that it's the future of tax. So my hypothesis and why I got excited about getting into the crypto tax business is that the crypto started out as the technology for tax avoidance, but will actually become the technology of tax going forward. That's my vision. So I had the opportunity to join BearTax this year, partnered with the existing chief product officer, and he and I are now essentially buddies, working as co-founders and building the business.
And I'm curious, as you go ahead with like that kind of thesis on the way things are going to kind of play out, I'm curious, what are some lessons that you've learned from kind of taking something that's in your brain and pushing it kind of into the world? Like, is that hard? Like, what have you learned from that? It could be about product marketing, raising capital, but I'd love to hear some lessons, along the way.
Yeah, you got it. So there's two lessons that I think are really critical here. One is, you can say you're going to build a global scale business, but you actually have to think it through and what that means to build a product that can actually get from A to B. And so, thinking through what each country needs, how do you enable the product to serve those needs? I'll give you an example. The United States, the generally accepted accounting principles are for first in, first out calculations. That's not true everywhere around the world. Some places like Italy use last in, first out calculations. So you have to build your engine so that it can actually support that in different countries. And there's numerous other kind of details related to tax that differ. And you need to architect it and think that through from the beginning to really be able to be a global company. Otherwise, you're going to try to patchwork it in and you're going to be limited. So that's really kind of from the product standpoint, the key takeaway for me.
Oh, sorry, keep going.
I'm happy to jump in and talk about some of the distribution pieces if you like, or we can dig in and talk a little.
No, let's go into the distribution. If you've kind of a learning or a lesson around there, we'd love to kind of learn more as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that was really Avalara's brilliance and strategy, was building connectors and integrating with the different players in the ecosystem. For those who don't know, perhaps Avalara is a sales tax automation and value-added tax automation company. So they're not in the same space that we're playing in, but there's likely to be touch points. The distribution and the partners that we'll have in solving for crypto are different, but the model is the same. Partnerships and creating an ecosystem and creating an integrated experience are key factors for building a strong moat.
Absolutely. And kind of taking those two things you just mentioned, kind of applying them to this next question. I mean, you have big visions here. You want to build a big company, but I'm curious, like in 5, 10, 15 years, like what actually does BearTax look like? Or in other words, like what's the big vision here and what direction are you rowing in as co-founder of this company?
Yeah, so the big vision is that BearTax is actually providing the technology that powers an entirely new system of tax. I can't go into it in more detail there, but essentially the tax we have today and the way you think about income tax, sales tax, property tax, all the different types of tax, crypto and blockchain enable an entire rethinking of that in a way that's not been possible in the past. So it's bringing together the smartest academics around economics, social impact to come up with a new system, and that new system being powered by BearTax, and the way that you interact with tax as a consumer, as a company, as a nonprofit, as anybody globally will be entirely different and powered by my company.
And in order to make that happen, you'll need some help, right? It takes a village to make a startup work and scale. So my question for you is, how can the forward-thinking founders community help? Are you hiring? Are you raising money? Looking for customers or partners? How can we assist?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we've got a core team. It's nice that I've got a good network of folks that are serving as early executives with my company. We're going to be building on our team and hiring fairly quickly. So product marketers, folks that are experts in crypto and tax to be evangelists for us would be incredibly helpful. And we are in the middle of raising our seed rounds. So we're past the halfway mark on subscription, and frankly, it's moving fairly quickly. So, I think we've got about a week or so here for window for anybody who's an interested angel who wants to kind of buy into the vision and support us. But, that capital would help move us across the line and see us through to our vision.
And I guess for my last question, if someone was interested in learning more as a potential investor or as a potential customer or team member, how can they find you online? Do you have a website, social media, account, email address? How can someone learn more on the internet?
Yeah, we do. So, bear.tax is our domain. You can reach me directly, Tela@bear.tax. I've also got a pretty sweet little early Twitter handle, just at Tela, Tela, if you want to reach out to me that way.
You're part of the first name club on Twitter. That's very I'm very jealous.
I never heard of it phrased that way, but I am. I have friends that are part of the first three initial clubs, so I think they beat me.
Yeah, that's the benefit of being early adopters, which anyone listening to this is kind of has an edge because you're hearing about things first. Well, thank you, Tela, for coming onto the podcast. I really love what you're working on, love the vision, and I wish you best of luck making it happen. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Matt.